everyone, my name is Rishikesh Nare. We welcome you to our special series, The Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories. It's an initiative by ETH. The key to cutting chai conversation is to have good discussion around the areas of your early life, education to grooming, training, business skills, skill augmentation, and work-life balance. I mean, it's extremely challenging to do multiple things and multiple times, but still our business leaders, they do that. So before we begin, let me set the context right. Cutting Chai is a series of candid conversations where we take you through the inspirational journeys of influential people. You all have seen these personalities in the corporate world, but we are taking them away from the boardroom drama to have some candid discussion around their life. And when I say life, it's definitely personal life that we're going to talk about. It's going to be very candid. And today we have with us Mr. Sandeep Tiku. He's the Chief Operating Officer at IVY. So good afternoon, Mr. Tiku. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, Rishikesh.
I understand it's your closing, but again, thank you for giving us those valuable 2 hours of your life. So where do we begin? I mean, please take us through your childhood days. So should we start with the kindergarten days, or should we go to directly schooling, where we talk about Mr. Tiku or Mr. Sandeep, or the guy who's there in the school who's more mischievous rather than studious? Because from frame perspective, when I look at you, you feel a student who always studies, can at least in top 10 in your school. But there is another side all the time, and I have noticed that the smarter the people, they're better at hiding those things, and they've never been caught. So please put some light on your childhood days.
Good afternoon, Rishikesh. So first of all, I'm very glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to share some of my key experience with you today. Yeah, you said there is always other side of the coin, and you want the things that are hidden so far, you want me to bring them up now, and you assume I will, because if I've hidden them so far, why should I bring them up now? It's fine. Anyway, look, again, I said I'm glad. See, my childhood started like any other typical Indian of our times, right? Brought up in a joint family, uncles, aunts to take care of. There was no shortfall of love and care during the childhood, right? Anything that you ask for, someone will take care of it. Your mother, your father, or the aunt or the uncle. So, supply was good enough all the time. And when you are brought up in an environment like that, knowingly, unknowingly, you actually get built up for the corporate organization. Some of the learnings without you knowing about it, right? And 3 important things that I reflect back when I think about my childhood all the time. The 3 things that have shaped me during the time and now helping me massively. One is the relevant communication. You need to stay relevant. You can talk, but unless there is a relevance in whom you're speaking to, it's not effective. The way you speak to your grandfather, to grandmother, to your cousin, in a joint family, and in a nuclear family is very different. In a joint family, sometimes that shapes and that teaches you that how remaining relevant in what you speak is so important, super important. So this is first thing that shaped me as a person. And then right influencing. I mean, you all know, right? How to influence a cousin to help to organize a Diwali, to influence the father and the uncle, right? It's not simple, right? But again, being in a joint family exactly shapes you, teaches you, again, unknowingly. When you start teaching someone, first of all, they don't learn because you're teaching someone, right? But if you create the situation or the environment, right, you learn. You learn on your own. You don't need mentor, to be honest with you, but you need that environment. And this is where I have been brought up, and being very fortunate being brought up in such an environment. And most importantly, the third one is the power of giving. You give, you give, you give. Don't expect anything in return. But then you realize everything comes back to you almost tenfold, right? This is something that, my childhood, my environment, and the positiveness around those situations has really taught us, right? You give to your cousin, you give into the things. Don't try to win all the battles, right? Because at the end of the day, what do you think? Think, hey, they are my own people, my cousin, there's my uncle, blah, blah, blah. And you start listening, you start adapting, But then when you create and establish yourself like that, you actually end up gaining more than what you give. And these are the three principles that I, even today in my corporate world, do exactly the same thing. And that is why I think part of my success is because of these principles.
I mean, wonderful. I mean, you answered my next three questions in just in your introduction, because and I relate to that fact where you say that it's a great institution, a joint family, because I never experienced joint family and how that culture is. When I got married, I saw 20 people, like 20 relevant people there, and you have to talk to each one of them. They have a different personalities. Everyone react to situation in a different way. So you mold yourself into that. And then I realized about, I think, three things that you definitely mentioned, where you learn so much. It's your B school foundation starts with your joint family. But another side of the joint family where kids, and I've seen specifically the where they are spoiled, because if they don't get things from their mom and dad, they go to uncle and aunt. If they say no, they go to their siblings, their elder siblings, and they make faces. They start acting. My nephew, I was referring to, the 4 year, he does the same thing. If someone says no, he goes to another one. It's like not failing your sales pitch. He goes to the last guy and he makes sure that he gets all he wants. But then it is very difficult when you go back to school. There are other children, and they are from a different walks of life, and they will not understand the difference between your joint family and nuclear family. I was in that zone, because I thought, oh, nuclear family is the best thing, because you have freedom all around. You have no one to watch over you. In joint family, you have someone or the other. He's on the road in your house to have a watch on you. With that surveillance system in place, is it easy to be a mischievous guy, or it becomes difficult because you know that you will get caught? And then any references, any stories that you remember from your schooling days where they asked your parent to come to meet the principal, and you convince your bua somehow to come there?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. I never had such a situation that parents were asked to come to school or something. So, never ever ended up in a situation like that. At the same time, look, every kid, even today, right? There's, as you said, there's always the other side of the person all the time, right? Um, but again, it all depends upon the level at which you operate, right? You can be mischievous, but you can be at a level that you don't end up in situations like that. But going back to your initial statement that you made, that's why school is why do you need schooling, right? The schooling is you're being naturally taught within a joint family. You learn multiple things, then you go to school, and school is like diversity. You have different type of kids, different type of people, and you start appreciating what you have and what probably some of these kids do not have, right? Joint families and environment like that. Or you start learning something from them that probably only a nuclear family can give, right? Maybe sometimes much more much more closer attention to your studies and things like this, right? It's always the case and stuff like that. One thing that somehow again it worked in my favor is that at school I was always, my friends were always somehow 2 years senior to me. Of course, I had friends within my class also, but you call those best friends, somehow were 2 years senior to me, both boys and girls all together. So I was always getting that edge in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will share with you, as you asked now, I'll share this situation with you. So I was in my sixth standard, and because of my this network, I was made as the some called there's this called as captain of the house. Normally at sixth standard nobody gets that. It's no chance. I, because of my influence, somehow managed to get it. And then you get a badge. You put a badge here, right? So you go 10 minutes early to school. Nobody stops you. Just walk in. All of that, right? So you feel great about it. But the problem was, the badge is not given to a sixth standard for some reason, because you're not experienced. You don't have that way of the maturity to manage it, right? So I go to the school, I go into class, and I do multiple things probably I should not be doing, right? And then suddenly, of course, the teacher catches me, like, what the hell are you doing? And then and immediately the badge was taken off me. And I was super embarrassed. I said, oh my God, what the hell is this? I didn't do anything wrong in a way, but it was wrong because it was not as per the rules. Right. So then I realized, oh my God, it's first of all, it's an insult now, right? In a way, it seemed that time insult, even though it wasn't, it looked like an insult. And then I went to the teacher. I tried to explain to her. She was, no, you cannot get into the class like this. It wasn't a big crime I committed, but just that I went to class without that, all of that. I didn't realize that I'm supposed to be carrying the badge only outside and things like this, And then again, they said, no, we need to talk to your parents. I said, oh my God, this is like becoming serious now. And that was one time, even though it wasn't big enough, but in my head, I was under real stress saying, oh, I had to call my parents and for such a silly reason. And I was cursing, why did he even become a mentor like this, right? But again, I used my so-called this elder influence, got it sorted out good. And since then I decided never ever to jump start like this, where I don't even know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the specialty of a child who is born and brought up in joint family, because he thinks about all possible things can work in his favor, and that's how he takes decisions. Uh, but when you started your journey, so, uh, I think I would go back to, again, your schooling days. You ever thought of, getting into this position, what you're today right now? Or it was just, you went along the way and you found you
I mean,
sort of,
I will tell you in a very simple way, right? Because it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. During my schooling, did I have a vision like this? Answer is no, absolutely no. I had no idea whatsoever. But as probably you know, that the Kashmiris, some of the Kashmiris had to flee, have to leave our native overnight for some reasons, and then I was also part of that. So suddenly the life changed then, right? So we were living in a very nice way, and suddenly you have to relocate to another state, and then you have all the hardships to face. That's why it started shaping me that I need to do something different in my life to be successful. Okay, and then I started thinking what I should be doing. So immediately after 12th, well, the normal course of action was go and do an engineering. This is what my parents wanted me to do. I chose business administration. So all the way from Jammu and Kashmir, I came down to Mysore, and this is when I started business administration. 3 years of degree, and everyone almost cursed me, saying I'm doing the wrong thing. So it's a very thing, but I somehow believed in it. And then when I completed my first year, I realized that this is not enough. I need to complement it something else. And then I again discovered research, speaking to people and things like that, that I need computers. And then I prepared for those GNIT course because it was very expensive. It was almost that time 1 lakh, which was not a small money. So I prepared for the scholarship, wrote the exam, got some 90% discount from them, and did 3 years of a GNIT course. So made my kind of upskilled myself. Then immediately after that, I applied for a Masters of Computer Application. I did a master's immediately after my business degree. Again, my parents and everybody else said, you did business, now you want to do computers, you are crazy, all stuff. But I think somehow I had discovered what I really want to do. So I completed my master's. Immediately after master's, I joined a software organization. Very successful journey so far. And then I was a group CTO, now group CEO, and still going on. So this is how I shaped myself. And if you tell me that I was visionary or things like this, I will say no. But at the same time, I had a goal in mind, and I never ever said this is my goal and so I'm going to reach it. I always kept changing every single step, every single year, do something different so that I reach there. And God's grace, yeah, I did it.
I mean, that's an incredible trajectory that I see, because you kept on doing one thing after another, and that's a sequence that I can visualize at this point of time. Any hobbies that you had to give up because of this life that you've chosen for yourself? So, any hobbies that you left along the way?
No, I mean, I'm a multitasker. I do everything. I do everything. Even while I'm working, I do everything. I listen to music. I spend time with my kids to help them developing computers, robotics, and things like this. So I haven't there is nothing that I would say I have compromised on, because only way to do that is I multitask. I don't do one thing at a time. I do multiple things at a time, and this is something I've learned over years, and it works very well for me.
And any particular hobby that you enjoy the most?
Not really, to be honest with you. It's not like, when I was a kid, my hobby was coin collection and stamp collection, and it was very hard during those days, right? It's only some uncle or somebody you have to find out. It was very, very precious. But what happened, and when I had to, overnight leave my home in Kashmir, all of that stayed there, right? So after that, I stopped collecting anything. I said, no need, leave it there. So the hobbies that generally are either listening to music or some point of time cooking. Actually, cooking is the best I do and I like, actually. Sometimes on the weekend, sometimes. So they're mostly different recipes, not like the same thing all the time. But my cooking is like it's elaborate. It takes 4 hours, 5 hours, but people do enjoy, appreciate that. So these are typical hobbies that I still continue since for last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and keep going.
You must develop an app where you help people to understand that there is some time you have to just make sure that you have to put into right slots and you do things, because this is the most I think if you ask anybody and if he's not pursuing his hobbies, the first reason that he comes up with is saying that I didn't have time for this, I don't have time today. But there are very few people, they say that you can manage time, you can do things. But again, our generation will understand when there is an app in App Store or Google Store, and that's where they download it. Oh, we can actually do so many things in a day. There are 24 hours to do it. Moving from that particular zone, talk us through your first job interview. You remember that? Was that a lucky strike, or you were prepared for it and you wanted to go through it? You knew all the questions, you knew the scenario, and you just went there and showed it off, or it was a lucky strike that you found that okay, I went through it and I got through.
I'm so lucky that I never had a lucky strike. I will tell you, if you have to be successful, you should never have a lucky strike, to start with at least. This is so important. I can share with you that during my master's, the last 6 months, the final semester is more like doing a project in an actual organization, right? Software industry or something like that. And then I went around, I came from Mysore. I almost visited, I don't know, 100 software companies in Bangalore, giving my resume, talking them through, no luck whatsoever, and saying, oh, we don't entertain such semester thing. If you're done, you come, we'll be more than happy to take you. But so it took a long time, and finally I managed to get into one small .com thing, and then CEO himself interviewed me, which was wow. CEO interviewing me is like couldn't believe, because other places even the receptionist wasn't well. CEO interviewed me, and it went very, very well. And I'm talking about 1999. Not only he gave me an offer as to do the project, he also offered me a job and gave me 20,000 as salary to start with, and which was like, wow, 20,000 that more time was wow. And then I started with him, of course, immediately I joined all of that. And then our US strike, you remember the September 11th, all the .com companies had to close, there was a sudden crash, everything. And unfortunately for me, also the same thing. And they had to close, they had to wrap up, their funds got seized, something like this. Then I looked for other place, and there's a company called Netcraft. It was on the same road where I was working. So I just walked in and I said, I want to do a project here. So you don't need to pay me, just to complete my master's. Somehow it worked, and there was a couple of interviews here and there, and they said, okay, come, we are starting a mobile project and you lead it. Then I said, okay. I had no idea what does it mean, and they had no idea as well, because this was something new altogether. This is how it started, and those 6 months, I remember I almost worked 24/7, because no idea how to do it, but got it done successfully at the end of 6 months, and the company got a big project. And then immediately, of course, they offered me the job. And then since then, I started on a very good note and everywhere else. But as soon as we completed the project, I had a job offer from them in my hand. Again, another wave of this whole global recession started. Again, they had to do a short, they had to remove the staff and things like this. So they asked me to continue, but without pay. So I continued there. But then I went to school to teach, to keep myself going for 3-4 months. Morning 7 to 10, I used to go and teach in the school, get me some money, continue working here. Then this wasn't enough because they were paying very, in being in Bangalore, you cannot afford with that. Then I joined another startup at the same time to keep continuing some more money for 6 months. And this is how between 3 jobs I continued. And one fine day, this Netcraft company, they got project, they were funds and said, okay, hello, start from now. And then I left everything else and started full time. So this is how I started my journey. But again, it was very, very hard. At the same time, you can think, I remember, and I'll share this with you, that my father and parents, sitting in Jammu saying, what the hell are you doing? Come here. There are so many government jobs. You will get a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. And I remember one day, I wrote a very big letter to my father, explaining to him why he should give me time to prove myself. And I'm glad I did that. And I'm pretty sure they don't regret it now. But that point of time, sitting on a computer writing a big letter to my father, and when he received, he thought this guy's crazy, so leave him alone. Yeah, but again, the starting was very, very hard, couple of years. But after that, it has proven to be absolutely brilliant for me, because what those 2 years taught me, no other business school could have given me such an education in any way.
Yeah, I mean, such a wonderful encapsulation of all the thoughts, because you're like, I'm asking you a question and then you're giving me answer for next 2 questions. I'm out of questions, but now I'm going to ask you 2 questions back to back so you can answer them, and then we can move to another segment. Question number 1 is, people say that, and all of us, we agree to that. There's a very thin line between, success and happiness. It's a very thin line that people walk on, and it's very difficult to differentiate what is success, what is happiness. Question number 2 is, you see nowadays there are a lot many startups and fintech startups that we all have seen, that they come in market, very few, they get funding and they become successful, and I think 95% of them, they faces challenges, they shut down the operations. Now, one collective message to both the situations, that if you can give us that, how do we define success, happiness, the balance, right balance, and when you're into the startup market, facing all possible competitions that out there in the world, what is the right set of mentality millennials or the new entrepreneurs should have for this?
The first one, what's the line between happiness and success? As long as you start loving what you do and you find a reason to love you what to do, there is no line. Success is happiness, right? End of the day, you feel happy, right, by doing what. So first of all, you need to find a reason to love what you do, or you change it. There's no second thought about it, right? At the same time, don't exit or don't quit so early. Yeah, it's always challenges, right? Always challenges, something like that. And extending this question, but giving an answer on the startup mode as well, because they're all tied together. I believe in one principle. I say do or die. Do it. Do everything possible in your capacity to make it a success. You almost feel like, if I don't do it, I will die. But if it comes to that death part of it, dying part of it, just ignore it. Get up and find something else for yourself, right? Because everything will give you something. First of all, you will not destroy the world. You're not capable of destroying the world, so nothing to lose, right? And secondly, even if you're a failure, you're not a failure. You've still learned something. And this learning is, you now package it for a different path altogether in your life and move forward. This is as good as that, right? Only thing which I always keep telling people, and this is something important to share with you as well. I tell my team members, I tell everyone, and I tell myself to start with, don't fall in the trap of treadmill. You know what's treadmill? You start running, you are running really hard, you're putting all your efforts on the treadmill, but your starting point, the end point is exactly the same. It's not going to change. And psychologically, you are feeling you did something. Wow, I achieved something. But look at your journey, your start and the end is exactly the same. So don't run on a treadmill. Run on a road, run on a highway that will give you something. Either you learn, you fall, you be successful. But learning on a treadmill, and this is where I see many of my friends or my team members sometimes get stuck with, satisfied at the end of the day for running over a treadmill. So don't do that. experiment, fall, do whatever, but love what you're doing, and success will be yours.
Wonderful piece where, now I will have these thoughts in my mind rest of my life, that, one treadmill, you're doing something, but you're somewhere there. You go out on the road, even for, a 10 minutes walk, you see different thing. You can explore another opportunity to, become what you want.
And on the treadmill, just to conclude this, you are not learning how to manage risk, because you have literally no risk. You're in a safe environment. So what do you gain? Absolutely nothing. Risk mitigation, risk identification, and risk taking capabilities are very, very important. Of course, not to do something which is not right to do, but at the same time, you need to start taking some risk. And then you know what happens when you take risk, then you realize actually it wasn't a risk at all. It was the normal way of doing it. This is the most important thing.
So that was Sandeep Tiku for you guys. I mean, he's a man of solidarity and determination. He's like a sniper in your troop who understands, analyzes, and then go for the shot. And I'm very much sure that if you want to win a war, you want someone like him on your side for sure. And the reason, Sandeep, I said sniper, because very few people, because I really like the fact, how sniper they work. Around the area, how do they analyze things? They wait for the opportunity. They will not waste their shot because it's very essential for them. So that comes as a, when I interacted with you, this is the first time I felt that similar quality in you. So that is the reason I just gave that reference to your personality. Again, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.